How many plagues will it take before the nations of the earth recognize the Elohim of all creation and submit to his authority? The answer? All of them. Hi, this is Barry Phillips with 10 Minute Torah, Day 2, a Torah portion, Bo. The last Torah portion dealt at the end with the plague of hail that was mingled with fire, rain, and severe thunder. Pharaoh was terrified at this spectacle. At the time, flax and barley were growing in the fields, and those crops were totally destroyed, as were the fruit trees. So a major portion or element of Mitzrayim food supply had been damaged. Now we come to a season where the wheat and the spelt are in the field. And Yah says, I'm going to send locusts. Now, if the locusts devour the wheat and the spelt crops, there's no grain at all. Further, if they devour any green grass left in the field, then the livestock will be depleted of their food supply. And then lastly, if they devour any remaining trees' leaves, then the trees have no means of dealing with the carbon monoxide in the air. We breathe in nitrogen, oxygen, other trace elements of things in the air. We expel carbon dioxide, which is processed then by the trees that are around us and clean the air. Without the trees, there is stagnant air. There are some things going on that we really don't read about in the verses. But Mitzrayim would be devastated. Yet Pharaoh says, I'm not worried about it. This is not a threat to me. As we said yesterday, he is a man controlled by a spiritual entity. So at this point, it's not just the man that is making the decisions. His servants began to counsel him that Moshe must not be played with, that the Elohim of Israel is someone much more strong and capable of their devastation than they have realized. They are being crippled and destroyed by this one-upsmanship that seems to be going on. So Moshe and Aaron are summoned back to the palace with a compromise. Now, this is the third time that a compromise has been offered. If we go back to chapter 8 and verse 25, Pharaoh there suggests that they offer their worship in the land. Offer your sacrifices here in Mitzrayim. The second compromise is found in 8:28, which he says, you can go, but you can't go very far away. This third compromise here in chapter 10, verses 8 through 11, says that the adult men may go, but the children must be left behind for their own safety. And then there's the fourth compromise that will be found in verse 24, where everyone can go, but the flocks and the herds have to remain. Now, of course, Moshe is adamant that every man, woman, child, and all their flocks, all their herds, everything must go out and go out together in order to worship Yah. Let's look at these compromises again. Again, in 8:25, worship in the land. If you want to be a Hebrew, if you want to wear a tallit, if you want to put a kippah on, if you want to do Shabbat, if you want to read from the complete Jewish Bible or some other Hebrew translation, do it in your homes. Don't stir it up in the pew. Be private about it. Don't promote it. Don't spread it around. Don't make a wave. After all, this is just your thing. You can remain in the land. You can remain in the congregation. You can remain a part of the mainstream, but do your thing privately. The second compromise is you can go, but don't go very far. If you want to do this thing, maybe they would be suggesting something similar to what was told to me some number of years ago, when as a pastor, I began to go down this Torah path. And I made some waves. We made some waves. Some things got a little testy. And our supervising pastor told me, well, if you want to do the Jewish thing, then let's set you up with a different building and another part of your location, and you can go win Jews to Jesus. But keep it isolated, because this is not going to be the mainstream of our denomination. The third compromise that says that the adults should go but leave the children behind, Laura and I were asked, why don't you wait until your kids are grown and out of the house before you change religions? The whole December holiday system, it's just for the kids. The whole Easter celebration thing, hiding the eggs and so forth, it's just for the kids. It's pure, it's innocent. Why make a fuss? Don't stir the pot. You adults do what you want, but leave the kids alone and let them enjoy life. Why take this stuff from them? And then the fourth compromise. You can do what you want, but your flocks and herds have to remain. I have a daughter who and her husband who years ago started a restaurant. And they were quite capable of making it successful, but they chose to close for Shabbat. The first thing of accusation against them immediately was, you'll go out of business. Ultimately, the restaurant did fold at some point, but Shabbat had nothing to do with it. You can be who you want to be, but work on Shabbat if it's necessary. Don't expect that you should be treated any different, etc. Compromise. The spirits behind the rulership, the authorities, those that hold title and office, will threaten and seek to intimidate. But we must be adamant. I, my family, my little ones, my flocks, my herds, all that I have influence on, we choose to serve Yah. As Yehoshua would say in a future generation, as for me and my house, we will serve Yah. That has to be adamant in our heart. That has to be predetermined. We can't wait for circumstances to dictate this for us. We must be already made up in our mind and determined as to which way we're going to go. I find it interesting that it was famine that brought Am Yisrael to Mitzrayim. Mitzrayim itself was in a famine. They had, by Joseph's wisdom and providence, they had set aside foodstuffs to get them through the 7 years of famine. When Am Yisrael leaves, Mitzrayim will again be in a state of famine. Their crops will be destroyed, their livestock will be destroyed, their foodstuffs will be expended, they will be economically and their substructure broken down and incapable of right function. When Yah brings his people out of exile, that which remained behind in this situation was devastation. How far does he have to bring down the nations of this earth before they recognize there is within our borders a set-apart people, a unique, different people with a destiny, not just an agenda, but with a destiny, with a kingdom destiny that is not to be found within our own. They are unique and they need to be released. As it is right now in this nation, if I want to get on a plane, I have a passport and I can travel. I can go to the land of Israel if they will allow me to come in. But to change residence permanently, it's not time or season, but in my heart, in my mind, in my spirit, I must be adamant that that day will come and I want to be ready for it. So until tomorrow, as we continue, shalom.